You are listening to When Life Gives You Lemons, the podcast that speaks to high-performing individuals who have been through adversity but come back stronger. I'm your host, Emma Levy, a physiotherapist who has helped elite athletes on their way to Olympic success. This podcast was born following my own trauma when I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of just 36. Sat in the chemo chair, I set myself the goal of starting a podcast to explore resilience and the importance of mindset. I just want to take a quick moment to thank you for listening and ask you to please press the follow button. Remember, you can catch all of our episodes on YouTube. Now, on with the show. It's a special one today because I'm on location, having been welcomed into the home of David Holmes. David is best known for being Daniel Radcliffe's stunt double in the Harry Potter films until disaster struck. In 2009, when rehearsing for a stunt on Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, a freak accident led to David suffering a severe spinal cord injury, leaving him a quadriplegic, fully paralysed from the chest down. Now, David is a podcaster, TEDx speaker, has released a documentary about his story titled The Boy Who Lived, and has just recently written a book by the same title. David, it's such a pleasure to be in your beautiful home today.
Thank you very much, Emma. Thank you for coming. Thanks for featuring me on your platform.
Can we start at the very beginning?
Yep.
Tell us how you got into stunts. I believe it was from gymnastics.
It was indeed, yeah. So I grew up as a brave but small child, lots of energy, and my mum found that me and my two brothers we're really good at gymnastics. So it was the world's best childcare for kids with too much energy. So I started at Havering Gymnastics Club in East London, and then I progressed to South Essex Gymnastics Club, where I spent, between the ages of 11 to 17 in a competitive gymnastics career. I got the coaching from an amazing coach called Jeff Hewitt-Davis. Now Jeff's work and the foundation that he laid has led on to the success of people like Max Whitlock and like all the other amazing talented gymnasts that are coming out of there. And then Jeff was also a stuntman. So not only was I getting coached by one of the world's best coaches, but I was hearing stories of what it was like to be a stunt performer. And I was just like in awe of it. Not only that, movies was my household. It was part of me growing up. And I just loved being in front of the TV and sharing movie memories with my folks. So when we weren't in the gym, it was always down the video shop and watching movies. So I then got gifted the opportunity to work on a film in 1997 called Lost in Space.
Yeah. Matt LeBlanc.
Matt LeBlanc, got to hang around in Shepperton Studios at the age of 14, best summer of my life, riding robots, navigating alien planets and spaceships and hanging around with Matt LeBlanc, who at the time was the most famous man on the planet because of Joey from Friends. He was wonderfully childish. We had loads of fun together. I got to work with lots of talent and then meet a famous stunt coordinator called Greg Powell, who was in charge of that film. A couple of years later, I'd done a day's work again through Jeff via Greg on a film called Bedazzled. And between filming breaks, and the film was fun because it was like in a classroom with Elizabeth Hurley, and the director, Harold Ramis, was like, "You've got to fancy Liz Hurley." I was like, it's not going to be hard to act that. So I was in that scene just for that day. Then Greg said to me, I've just finished Lord of the Rings. I'm on Band of Brothers, but I think I might get a film called Harry Potter something. Now, I'd heard of the books, but not read them. But he said, can I take your number? So I was like, okay, sweet. So I went back. I actually read the books, fell in love with Harry like we all did, and the amazing writing from Joe. And then I was just starting my second year college, and I got a phone call from Greg. He said, can you come in for the first stunt test? And on that stunt test, I had done an up and down on a broomstick, making me the world's first Quidditch player.
Really?
And then we attached that broomstick to the back of a truck and drove that truck down the runway at 40 miles an hour at the studios.
And you're not strapped in?
No, strapped in via a seat harness onto a bicycle saddle. Very painful.
Yeah. Not
very comfortable, but it is what it is. And then we drove the truck down the runway at Leavesden Studios. Someone gifted me a cloak and glasses. Chris Columbus, the director, was looking at me down a camera lens. That's when we realised how we was going to film Harry Potter. And that's also how I literally, the end of the stunt test, Chris jumped off the back of the truck, was like, yeah, this is how we're going to do it. And then after that, it was Chris pointed to Greg and he said, he's our guy. Amazing. And that was it. That's how I got lead stunt double for Harry Potter.
Amazing.
And I spent 8 years on the World's Best Kids franchise.
Yeah. And the stunts that you did, because I've watched some of them now online, they look quite scary. Were you ever fearful as a stunt performer?
Not really, no, because I was confident in my ability. And with stunt work, just like gymnastics, you break everything down to its smaller parts. So you don't get overwhelmed by the big stunt in itself. So you build up into a rehearsal. So, I mean, fear is something that it's a tool and you use it. And if you don't like pay attention to it, you get caught out. So, but it was something that I was always able to overcome. And from a young gymnast, I got hurt and my coach said to me, like, you can either go home now crying about it or get up and do it and not be scared of it forever. And very formative experience, which then led into how I went to live my life and still do now to this day.
And the Harry Potter franchise, it's more than just a film, isn't it? It's like a movement.
Yeah, it's a global phenomenon. It's like, I was able to secure my on-screen immortality, and it's an amazing thing. Like the books, the films, they're a real safe space for a lot of people. And despite where it ended up in my journey, I still find a lot of comfort knowing that there are people that, turn to Harry Potter to make them get through tough times.
Yeah, and how do you feel when you look back at your time on the set?
It's the best job in the world. I have no regrets whatsoever.
Yeah.
If someone asked me, would I do it all again? I was like, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, because you've previously said that the rewards outweighed the risks.
Always, yeah. But the risk is always there. And I don't think any stunt performer should go to work not understanding that that there is risk. You're doing a dangerous job. But you try and make it as less dangerous as physically possible. So the idea of stunt work in general is to bring something to the screen for the audience to, be part of the narrative journey. And that is your physicality. And my physicality went into Quidditch and read into spell reactions. And not only that, it went into me teaching Dan to improve on his own physicality. So you've read the book now, you know that I was his PE teacher. Yeah. And we used to play and do all the things that an insurance company would have an absolute heart attack over. But we'd close the stunt doors and I'd get him jumping off of port cabins and bouncing on trampolines and swinging around swords and all of that. So it was, we created an environment, and the Harry Potter crew created an environment where it was a safe space for young performers to grow and build on their skill set as actors. And I grew as a stunt performer, and all the actors grew as amazing young talent and what they are now, which is very good, capable actors.
And you grew up together, didn't you? Because when it started, was Daniel Radcliffe, he was 12?
Yeah, 11.
11.
And I was 17.
So you were like his PE teacher. For him, that must have been incredible, an 11, 12-year-old going into the stunt room with a 17-year-old.
Yeah, I was a bit like his older brother, and then we grew to be like close friends. And he's one of my best friends to this day. I speak to him on a weekly. And you guys got to watch him grow up on film, and I get to watch him grow in life. I couldn't be prouder of him.
Yeah.
He's a great human being.
And your accident happened when you were 25 years old.
25, yeah.
And you've recalled that day when making your recent documentary and also writing your book. And I imagine you don't particularly like to talk about that day.
I don't mind. It's not the easiest of days to recover, when, we all experience trauma and pain in life. Like, you're obviously very aware of the journey that you've been in. You took some terrible news that day, and then you were faced with your own mortality. And I've learned that life is a lesson of loss, and you have to just make your peace with it, because if not, then you'll resent it and you can't see the wood through the trees. And I was 25, I was doing stunt rehearsals. We were building up as the film franchise got bigger and bigger, and we'd already shown enough spell reactions for it to just be sort of mediocre. and we wanted to make the stunt of Harry fighting Nagini a bit more severe, and the takeoff from the ground and the flight through the air more severe. And then something went horribly wrong. I flew into a wall of crash mats at like a ridiculous rate of speed. My chest folded into my nose, my spinal cord separated, and I was landed paralysed, and that was it. My life was changed forever, and like I was then set on a different path. And so you either hit a wall and you stay at the bottom of the wall, or you work your way around it. And I was thankful that I had the support of the hospital you used to work at, Stanmore, and the spinal unit and the specialist team, and then the luxury of love and support in my life that, you know, picked me up when I was down. So yeah, I consider myself lucky but unlucky. You know what I mean? I was fortunate that it happened to me because I'm strong enough to deal with it.
Yeah, and that day of the accident, do you assign any blame to anyone?
Nah, hate and blame. The only person you hurt the most is yourself. You know, I went into hospital and met people that were there through horrendous circumstances like hate crimes, terrorist attacks, you know, domestic violence, that all got their spinal cord injury. I did a job with no risks, and it soon makes you own it when you're sharing a bay with people that are there because of like religious hate and weird stuff like that. Just the worst side of humanity. So yeah, of course it wasn't my fault and there's nothing I could do about it, but hate and blame, like, it just eats you up inside. And do you know what's harder than breaking your neck? Seeing your pain in your loved one's eyes. Always. So me being able to sort of accept it, and by accepting it for the people that are around me, like that I was sharing the space with in hospital, but also for my friends and family, helped me move on really quickly with my journey. So yeah, hate and blame. There's enough of that in the world.
Yeah.
Don't hold on to it in your heart.
But you talk about acceptance, but you say in your book that at the beginning you were lying on your back and you know, just looking at the ceiling and you thought, I'm going to get better. It's going to get better.
Yeah, I think I always knew. But in the early days, you're like, you don't know. Spinal cord injury takes a while to settle in. You just don't know. And the amount of bruising in my spinal cord just was there too long, and there was too much damage. So after sort of, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks, it was like, okay, yeah, you're here now. Like after the ICU, the intensive care unit bit, like, and I moved on to the spinal ward, the reality of, okay, yeah. And because I was so acutely aware of my body, you know, I can really tune into it because I've always been able to. Yeah, it's just a bit, there was that moment, and I couldn't even hit a call buzzer for a nurse, and it sort of all come over me. And then on the other side of the ward was a good friend of mine, Will Pike, who was there because he was caught up in the Mumbai terrorist attack. And he was going through his own pain. But he reached out in the dark place. I couldn't even see him. And he was like, you're not alone here, mate. If you need something, just shout. I'll hit the buzzer for you. It's like a candle in a dark place.
Yeah.
And yeah, so, you know, someone that was going through their own hell still showed me their humanity. So I make a point of always trying to do the same.
I had Henry Fraser on the podcast. Do you know him? He's the mouth artist. He's also a quadriplegic. He's now a mouth artist. And he talked about a moment of acceptance where he kind of saw himself in a mirror. Yeah. And for him, that was like the switch.
Yeah, I think acceptance is something that I have to practice every day. Unfortunately, because of complications, I'm actually going through continued neurological decline on this side. So this week, I had to really practice go into my coping strategies because I lost the sensation in that thumb. One of my PAs was washing my hand for me in the morning, and I was like, do that again. He's like, you didn't wash it properly. And he's like, no, I am, look. And I looked and I realised I can't feel it, and like the top of my thumb, and that will go up. And whether I retain breathing, speech and swallow on my journey, I don't know. But that forces me to be present, because it forces me to like appreciate what I've got now when I got it. So like it's a hard thing to do, a really hard journey. And like you want to push back and you want to sort of go like kid yourself that it's not happening, but I can't ignore that. Like, it's there. You know what I mean? I could literally bite that thumb off now and not feel it.
Yeah.
So yeah, acceptance is, some people say it takes a couple of years to get over a major trauma. And I'm like, no, it's every day. Every single day. Now, I don't want to turn it back on you, but you've been through your own, right? And no doubt sometimes you get caught out with it, you know, unless you practice your coping mechanisms and like, unless you take it in and don't get caught up in the mess of what life is and the world. Like, I try to avoid the news now. It's just too horrendous.
Yeah.
But you have to practice it every day, right? You're aware that you've got to be remembering that we're all on borrowed time. All of us, every day. We're all dying a bit more every day, whether we like it or not.
You don't know what tomorrow's going to bring.
You don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. But right now, I can breathe, I can speak, I can swallow, and I'll take that.
Yeah. Well, I listened to your TED Talk, and your 4 key messages are basically the 4 things that I harp on about this podcast, on this podcast. So the first one, like you just said, be present.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer on kind of like living for today.
Have you read Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now?
Yeah, I actually haven't, but I've been told to read it so many times.
Gotta read it. It's so good. Yeah. Because it is, you know, it's, past is gone, the future's unknown, but right now is all you get. So how you handle something right now. Like, I had an issue this week where I, you know, had like a difficult time with one of my PAs, but someone that I'm really close with at the same time. We've been through a massive journey together. And I'm realising that he's going through his own struggles and I'm going through mine, and we're just not aligned. So I was like, just take tomorrow as a mental health day. Just take it, and then I'll take it for myself. And then we have a nice bit of separation. And then when we come back to work together, we can draw a line underneath it and move on. Because some people can move with change and some people can't. And my wavelength of life is mental. I have really big extreme highs and really big lows. But I always say, choose to surf instead of get swept away.
Yeah, I like that. You also talk about finding the humour. So one of the quotes I kind of live by is Viktor Frankl's quote from Man's Search for Meaning, when he says humour was another of the soul's weapons for the fight for self-preservation.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, like if not being able to laugh at myself, it's like softens the blow. And also you don't do it alone. Like, that's the great thing. It's in my TED Talk. Like, you know, I've been in some really funny situations with this, you know, whether that's a bowel accident on top of a mountain in Switzerland, being cleaned up and then forgetting to lock the toilet door and scarring the hell out of a family that opened it. Or, you know, my mum helping me navigate a priapism in hospital with a catheter change. You know, I was like, I know what rock bottom is. So, but to be able to laugh at yourself and the ridiculous of life, sort of, it really helps. And like I say, we're all on borrowed time. Try and make the most of it while you can.
But you say in your book that positivity was a tool that you used to shield yourself from hurt.
Yeah.
And so it's like a little bit of a defense mechanism. And so it did make me think, where's the line between the acceptance and the avoidance when you're using humour?
Just tightrope you're walking every day, or non-walking every day in my situation. Sometimes you step over it and you catch yourself out, or you catch someone else out. You might say something that doesn't offend you, that offends someone else, that you have to go, I didn't take into account of your emotions. But then you have to sort of be accountable and say, like, I could have been better there. And do you know, accountability is the rarest form in human, like, you know, especially in politicians. But yeah, like trying to hold yourself accountable every day for, like, I go to bed and I'm like, how was I last night? How am I tomorrow? You know, how was I today and how could I be better tomorrow? I try and do that all the time.
Really?
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes you beat yourself up and sometimes, you know, you're sort of questioning that you let yourself down there, but then you've got an opportunity to fix it. Because if it's in amongst your relationships or your peer group or wherever it is in life, while someone's there, you've got the opportunity to fix it. When they're not there, you don't. So I know that if something's bothering me, I deal with it really quickly because I can't run away from my problems. I can't exercise them out. I can't do anything like that. The only sort of headspace I get or break is when I'm holding my breath underwater in that therapy pool down there. And I hold my breath for as long as physically possible. And I get to a state of absolute zen. And even though I only breathe in my diaphragm, 4 minutes and 25 seconds is not too bad, is it?
I don't know how you do that.
Because it's mind over matter, because my body's going, you're not breathing, my brain's going, you're not breathing. And then I'm like, you got this. I'm like, no, I'm in control.
And then do you pass out?
No, luckily not yet. Close, very close.
So how do you know when to come up?
Well, I don't. I have someone stand on my shorts and I sit with a scuba tank on.
Oh, so you're just not breathing from it. So as soon as you're ready,
take
you
the
breathe.
regulator out, sit there and then go, do I need that? Not yet. Do I need that? Not yet. And I'm like, and I'm bringing my hand closer and closer and closer and closer. Okay, I need it now. Yeah. But I do that because it like my life was physicality before and I had to move to think. And that was all taken away. And but by doing that, do hard things every day. That's what I say. Do something hard every day. Because when the real hard stuff comes, you know that you can handle it.
Yeah. I like to say that. I like to do my exercise in the morning. You start with a really hard run and then everything else that day is a little bit easier.
Get it out of you.
Yeah.
Also, when you're running, your mind's doing something, which is not only the physical or any exercise, but running especially, because your eyes are scanning for risks all the time. So you're actually going left, right, floor. Your mind is so active in that because if you fall over running, you can really hurt yourself. So by doing that, you're sort of wiping your brain of all the other stuff. And the physical exertion of all exercises kind of does it. But running does that in a different way. And I don't know if you know about lateral looking.
No.
Like if you're finding yourself in a state of stress or nervous about something, close your eyes and move your eyes behind your eyelids, left to right, left to right, left to right. And then also breathe. Yeah. And focus on breath and then move your eyes. And you trick what running does to you.
Oh, wow. I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
So did you start the breathing stuff? Do you think that was because you were seeking some kind of physicality challenge?
Well, I was swimming with two arms. I'd swim with this arm and then my physio would rotate that one. But because it's got worse and worse and worse, my scapula won't allow for it to do that. It just puts me in too much pain now.
Right.
So that was taken away. So where I did have something that was physical, that was taken away. And I was looking and I was like, do you know what? You were really good underwater. Get a scuba bottle, find out. And it first started off, it was like a minute and then 2 minutes. And now I'm like comfortably 4 minutes. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
Are you aiming for a certain time?
Mate, it's the journey. It's never the destination.
There you go.
Always the journey.
Yeah.
Like if I got to 5, I'll push for 6. Like, it's just how it is.
In your book, you talk about the scuba dive stunt you did on Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I mean, that one sounded mad.
Oh, there was loads of them. Like I spent 4 months underwater in Europe's largest underwater tank, big giant baths. It was 6 meters deep, 10 meters long, 10 meters wide. And on one of the shots in Potter, Harry's got to do the loop underwater. So I remember diving in from the side, going down to the bottom of 6 meters, doing a loop to the surface, getting to the bottom of 6 meters again, then going up to the other side. Thought I broke the surface and like was at the end, absolute end. And I took a lungful of water and got a pretty nasty chest infection. But it was right. It's cool. I didn't die. Yeah.
You also talk about in the TED Talk that you're not a victim, you're a survivor.
Always. If you base your sense of identity as being a victim, then that's the lens you'll see your whole life through. And I know plenty of people that live like that. You know, I'm a victim because I'm not like that person. I'm a victim because that person's got more than me. I'm a victim because society doesn't allow for me to go down the street in my wheelchair. I'm a victim, like... You live like that, you'll always live like that. Now, by all means, if you've been wronged or you see it wrong, then call it out because that's how we all improve. But don't lean into the fact this is affecting me so bad that I can't get over it because it will just swallow you up. So yeah, be a survivor always. No one escapes the human condition. whether you like it or not, you'll be part of my club, you know, and the people watching this will be part of my club. Age and time are cruel things.
Yeah.
Like, and no one escapes disability, no one escapes getting old, and no one escapes like leaving this planet. So I always say invest in my community today for your better tomorrow, because disability can affect you at any stage in life, whether that's via illness or via an accident or just through getting old. So I always, you've always got to sort of, one, financially have your rainy day fund, and make sure you got insurance for like, you know, life insurance and stuff. But also just be prepared to be tested, to be reminded of your own mortality, because you will die one day, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. Do you ever ask, why me?
No. Do you know what? My best mate Mark said to me, you done the stunt rehearsal yesterday, and you took a big whack, and you said you had whiplash in the car on the way home, which I did. And that was the morning of the stunt accident. He said, so why don't I do this rehearsal? And I'm like, no, it's a Harry stunt. It's my job to do. I've got to do it. And I'm so glad I said that. I'd never be able to live with myself if I didn't. And no, like, I always think like bad things happen to good people because we're strong enough to deal with it. I tell myself that. And Michael J. Fox, the biggest superhero on the planet, says it right. With gratitude, optimism is sustainable. If you find something to be grateful for, you carry on. Now, I practice that all the time, gratitude.
Yeah.
You know, like I was doing a podcast in here the other day, Greenwood Peckerland in the garden. I'm like, let's stop this for a minute. Let's just see the gift of what that is. So you can choose to have your eyes open to the gift of the world, or you can close them up. And by being a victim, you'll never see the beauty of life and the world or appreciate it.
Yeah.
But by being a survivor, like knowing that today's an extra day, today's a gift, you'll always like see it that way. I mean, it's still hard, but that's why you practice gratitude.
Have you used this philosophy to find meaning in your accident then?
No, I think I find I use this philosophy, I just come to it really. You know, I've read things and I've watched, you know, different things, and I find solace in great art and music and like writing. But I've always been someone that's found his own way. You know, I moved out of the house really young, like, and was really independent, like at the age of like 17. And most young men don't grow up till they're 25 with their frontal cortex. Well, at the age of 17, I was working on film sets surrounded by adults that would not let you get away with acting like a child. You know, so I was forced to grow up. So it made me grow up quickly. And I've just been able to I've always been told I'm an old head on young shoulders. Yeah. And I think, we should just, I don't know, everyone's different. Everyone's got to find their own path. Yeah. And that's just how it is. Like, no two roads are the same. No two lights are the same. No two sunsets are the same. We're never in the same point in space and time, and we're never at the same point in our life. So, appreciate what you've had and also what you've got while you got it.
Yeah. So we've mentioned your documentary and the book. So I've watched the documentary, which I would highly recommend to people listening. I really did enjoy it. I know you said earlier you haven't watched it.
Not yet. Nope.
And I've also thoroughly enjoyed your book more recently. I think it was only released about a week ago, wasn't it?
A week ago, yeah. It's out there. It's doing its thing.
But really good read.
Thank you.
But the book is a lot more raw.
Yeah, there's only so much you can fit into a 90-minute documentary made by HBO about a kids' movie franchise, which talks about a bloke who breaks his neck on the film. You know, it was always going to be a sterilised, like, little version of me. Now, in my book, I was able to not only relive my best and worst days, but also own up to the times where I wasn't accountable and how I made mistakes trying to rebuild my life post-injury, whether that was through drinking drugs or trying to rediscover what masculinity meant with a spinal cord injury. And right now, there's a generation of kids watching YouTubers trying to think that's what it means to be a man. But the biggest lesson I'll say to all those young boys that are trying to find that, I was lucky I had great coaches and great men in my life that loved me to being the man that I am. And they all taught me what makes you a man is accountability. Are you accountable for your actions?
Yeah.
And that's the best lesson you can give.
So post-accident in the book, you write that, you were partying, alcohol, drugs,
I built this
Ibiza.
house and tore it up for 4 years. Literally, I had 200 people in this house the day after I moved in.
Seriously?
Yeah, it was a great party. It was a great party. But I've done it all. I've made those memories and done the Ibiza thing. And, they're there. And that was me at that point in time. And I wasn't accountable, but that was also where I was at. That was some of the mistakes I made post-injury. I mean, looking back, maybe spending that much money on, nefarious situations, I could have probably been a little bit financially smarter because it's very expensive being disabled. The chair I'm sitting in is 20 grand.
Yeah.
Costs 250 grand just to get out of bed every year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
could have saved a bit more back
Could have saved a bit more back then, but also, it is what it is. Yeah.
You also talk about driving really fast cars. So I wanted to ask you, back then, do you think you didn't care if you lived or died?
Yeah, big time, yeah. For a long time, I was like, it's just, but I've always been like, we've all quite a lot of men have got unconscious suicidal biases. Where they're just like, I would, not all men, but definitely me. I know that if I go near an edge of a swimming pool, and I know I could wheel straight in, I go and I'd be like, you can hold your breath for 4 minutes, fuck it. But I don't do it because I don't want to scare everyone around me. Yeah. I've always been that way. And post-accident, I definitely would say that I was in a mindset of, let's just burn it and then spend it all and end it, that was sort of my mindset. Very different now.
Yeah. So where was the shift and how did you become sober? If you did become sober?
I am sober, yeah. I don't do nothing at all. Sobriety came when I looked around at my people that I loved and realised that my actions were being detrimental to their health and their lifestyle. And I could always give and take it. I was never massively into it, but I realised because of my acts being able to afford it and be able to get it out, it was being detrimental to myself a little bit, but my others around me, more importantly. So I've done my time, I've done my thing, I've taken my risks, and I've been able to be one of the few that gets out the other side and goes, okay, that was me then, and that's what I hold myself accountable for in the book. But this is me now, and now I've got a very full life with purpose. And I see that purpose to use my platform to try and improve society, to, think of all the kids that are born into wheelchairs behind me, or all the people that are going to get a spinal cord injury in their life. And society's not set up for us. And we've got no representation in Parliament, or, the law industry doesn't really understand the full magnitude of what living with a spinal cord injury is. So I use that as my purpose, and having a purpose in life, that gives you a drive. Yeah. And I've always been a very driven human being, but now especially because I got the clock, the tick, tick, tick of this side, I'm going to use my voice before I lose my voice. Yeah. So. And
you say that emotionally you were a mess at the beginning, but therapy wasn't your vibe, is what you said. No. So what strategies have you used over the years to get you where you are now?
Everything. Art is great. Art is the best of what we do as human beings. You're having a tough time, watch a film, lose yourself in a great story. Listen to music. Kendrick Lamar's album this week. It's exceptional. And it's, really great at being angry, self-reflective, you name it. It goes through the full range of his emotions at his state of mind, and he's open and honest. And art is honest. That's why you're vulnerable when you draw a picture and you don't want to show someone, because it's you're sharing vulnerability. And I've learned that definitely post-documentary that it's actually strong to be vulnerable. It's strong to show your vulnerability. It's not weak at all. And I think everyone in society is nervous about getting old, losing hair, showing their age, showing their physical abilities deteriorating, or not being able to say, I'm struggling. Whereas my journey is like, well, I ain't eating lunch today unless my lovely PA is going to make it for me. You know what I mean? And now I've got a partner that's quadriplegic. She lives in Sheffield. And now our journey is constantly hit with barriers. You want to go to the cinema? Well, you can't sit next to each other. You know, you want to have a moment of intimacy? Well, you've got to go through these checks and balances if you've got to use this person and that person. And I'm now that sticks a rocket up my backside because I love her. Mm-hmm. And I love being with her, and she's my home. And even though she's in Sheffield, she is she makes me not feel disabled. And just like this house, most disabling thing about being in a wheelchair is the environment you interact with. Well, in here, I'm more able than you are. Yeah. Because I can use my voice to open every door, turn all the lights on, turn the TV on, you name it. And I built this 13 years ago. Yeah.
Well ahead of the times.
Well ahead of the times, yeah. But I built it to prove that it can be done. And now the products that are in this house are off the shelf and people can get a guide to independence. I'm working with Sky right now, designing the remote for the new Sky Glass. Oh, wow. So you can now buy a skin that you can hold onto with limited hand function, which has got super tacky grip and a little loop on the top so you can hook a thumb in it, or attach a lanyard. So if you're an old person, you drop it on the floor, you can put it back. And I'm also working with them on their smartphone remote, because they designed a product that was we've got voice control, it's really accessible. And they forgot to include a smartphone remote. Well, that means you can't navigate changing channels if you have to use voice control. So I called them out on it, and then they got me on board, and me and my partner were working with them designing it. Wow. So I'm always pushing.
Yeah. And always. That works with your purpose as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, big time, yeah. Get a massive sense of satisfaction with that.
Amazing. Final question, David, that I ask all of my guests.
Go on.
If you could go back in time to when things were at their toughest, what do you wish you could tell yourself?
Don't worry, you'll never change. Don't worry. The people ask me, what am I most proud of? Yeah. I broke my neck and didn't change who I was. Yeah. Made me a better person, a better human being. I'll take that. You know what I mean? Don't worry, you'll always be you. Yeah.
Thank you, David. Thank you for welcoming us into your home today.
No worries. Thank you.
You highlight the importance of community. So we haven't talked about the fact that you've got this amazing therapy room down at the bottom of your garden where you welcome local people. Local disabled
I literally met someone last Sunday. He's an elderly gentleman, already beaten throat cancer, suffered a spinal cord injury because he fainted over a wall. He's an incomplete injury, so he's got some function and sensation back. Mm-hmm. But he's about to come across, he hasn't showered for a year because his home can't do it with his care team. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, come round, use the pool, use the wet room afterwards, get washed, use it. And I have kids with, I've developed a few properties, and I've got a family with a severely disabled child that's just moved into one that I've done. And everything that I do, I'm always it's got to accommodate for me. Yeah. And now it's serving a great thing in the community. That serves a great thing in the community. And I can't have all this and not bloody share it. Yeah. When I go on holiday, friends of mine that are tetras and quadriplegics, they move into this house. Yeah, I'm like, have it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. It's really admirable. And also, despite the hardships that you experience day to day, you are able to stay positive in the moment, hopeful.
What are you going to do about it? Yeah. You sit there crying about it all day? Yeah, it's not going to get you anywhere.
It's not easy. And I do think that listening to your story will help others put maybe smaller things into perspective.
Yeah, just take a breath. Right, as you breathe out, someone right now just took their last. Be thankful.
Thanks, David.
Cheers, mate. Thanks, Emma.